Good morning. How are you today? There's some nasty no-see-ums out, but otherwise it's really pretty wonderful. Earlier today, we graduated a couple of our animals to an even larger place where they rescue. And two of our exiting loved animals are those that you've asked me about in the past, which is Bourbon and Pepsi. And it was a bittersweet moment when they took off. But let me tell you, the farm that's taking them on, years ago, they picked up a pig that was called Pork Chop. And when I asked them if they ever eat them, this was the example they gave me, that they don't eat any of their animals. They love them all. It's a genuine rescue. It's something they've wanted to do since they were kids. And they're now, one is a vet, and the wife is also very active, and they both are crazy about animals, and they have the space to do something about it. And he told me that the pig Pork Chop is now 800 pounds. So you get some idea about how faithful they are. And maybe I can put up some pictures in the next couple of days to show you the departure of our loved animals. Particularly Bourbon was really challenged. So we're very excited we were able to save both of them. In my mind is a commentator that has fascinated me since I was young. And he was talking mostly about civil rights and liberties. And it's James Baldwin. And he said, ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy of justice. And I think of justice as fundamental fairness. And I think of how the combination of ignorance, incompetence, self-serving, and these kinds of things, when you give somebody that power and they can use it in that sense, that's why I think it is such a ferocious enemy of what's fair and good and right. Now, we have that in full force in the discussion about racism in America, denied, I think, by Lindsay today on the Talking Head shows. But, and others, Republicans deny it. It doesn't exist. What's wrong with you? These people live in the Pollyannish false world of say anything to get yourselves elected, reassure anybody any way you can with whatever lie you have to tell. But I was a little upset at the Talking Heads today because they're telling us a lie. They're telling us something that if you're ignorant, you might believe. But it's being told with such authority by Republicans and Democrats and even the commentators, what are we going to do? Okay, well, let's take an example. What are we going to do about the infrastructure bill? Well, the Republicans right off the bat don't believe that most of that infrastructure is anything but a far left plot. Yeah, a far left plot is defined by the Constitution of the United States that talks about the general welfare, promoting the general welfare. That's what it's about. Now, and internal developments were something that was argued about around the time of the Civil War, and we're still debating it. Eisenhower understood why we needed highways, at least for defense, but he also understood it was for commerce. And these days, we know a healthy public means fewer hospitals, people who have jobs. How about, having access to the internet in areas, the burbs, where that doesn't exist, and rural areas where it's even more difficult, particularly at a time when we have to educate our kids maybe at a distance, because we don't know if we're going back into the pandemic again. And even if we're not, we need it. So those are a couple of my thoughts about that. But here's the kicker. The Republicans are brought to the table by their capitalistic friends on Wall Street, and they're promising we're not going to see them raise your taxes. After their taxes, which had been about what we would raise them to, they were reduced. And so they don't feel any need to participate in America to help make it better again. The second bill that drives me crazy is the one in the Senate, which was passed by the House, which is the George Floyd Justice Bill. They don't worry, we're not a racist country. Yeah, well, what about police beating up individuals, mostly persons of color? What about all those reports we're getting? What about setting standards for things they can't do, which permit them to subjugate, suppress, abuse, hurt, maim, kill? Who knows? Your father, your mother, your aunt, your cousin, your own child. This is what's at stake. And what is their response? One of the things we know that they care about is they don't want us to compromise the immunity these police officers have from prosecution. And I'm talking about civil cases. So if they beat the living daylights out of someone, or choke them to death, or harm them in any way, or just simply assault them and scare the living bejesus out of them, well, what happens when they try to sue in a civil case for a denial of civil rights and liberties, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and a whole variety of other things like due process and fundamental fairness? Well, these Republicans say, oh no, you got to realize these police have it rough. They risk their lives. We can't mess with this qualified immunity. No? Well, if we want to tighten their sphincter muscles and make them afraid of what they might do wrong, I think we should take it away. They have shown that they don't deserve it. They have shown that it proliferates a belief that they can do anything. Don't you think that on some level, Chauvin feels today, hey, they changed the rules on me. I used to be able to abuse the living daylights out of anybody I wanted, including persons of color, maybe particularly persons of color. So that's kind of my thing. I'm going to talk, I guess, a little bit on my podcast about what do we do about the environment. And some of that's pretty obvious, but I think it would be good to run through that. And there's a local delegate, Lopez, who is quite articulate, and I'm going to run some things he said to me at a League of Conservation Voters on Thursday, not just me, a bunch of people. So here I am in my cathedral of trees, and I'm off my soapbox. I'm away from the rostrum, and I'm going to finish my walk. So get out if you can. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.